Hello, hello. Sorry, trying to get comfortable. Hello? Anybody gonna hop on? Hello, hello. Hey, Terry. How are you? I'm running a little bit late tonight, guys. Sorry about that. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Hello? Okay, I'm gonna move my tripod. It's gonna get a little wiggly for a second. Sorry about that, guys. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. Joan from North Carolina, welcome. Glad to have you here. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for the badge. I appreciate that. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee and I'm from South Dakota. Welcome. I'm a little late, but I'm gonna let a few more people hop on and then I'll get started. Hold on a second, guys. Of course, then the chat always ends up flying. Interesting that it won't let me. Interesting. Thank you for the badge. I appreciate that. Hold on, guys. Sorry. I already got to use the block button today here. Thank you for the follow, Bill. I appreciate that. I'm just going to let a few more hop on and then I'll get going. Thank you for the badge. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Get myself set up better. Pam, thank you for the badge. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee. I'm from South Dakota. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for the badge. Okay, it looks like our numbers are climbing. I don't want to wait too long. I want to keep y'all waiting. So if you're not new here and you've been here before, I'm going to apologize because you've heard this a million times. Maybe not a million, but a few. And sorry, my dog's chasing a cat. Can you hear his little pitter patters in the hallway? If you're just hopping on, thank you for the badge, PM. I appreciate that. All right, there we go. There's our numbers. All right. Thank you for all the likes, guys. Yeah, keep tapping that screen because that really does help me out a lot, guys. I do appreciate that. So if you're new here, my name is Renee. I'm from South Dakota. Welcome. I started my TikTok a year ago in March. The reason I started my TikTok is because for TikTok purposes, on September 13th of 2023, my husband unalived himself. And that's when I discovered that I have abilities to talk to my guides. Give me 1 second. Bentley, lay down. Lay down. Otherwise, he pitter-patters down the hallway the whole time. You can't hear yourself think. And so that's when I discovered that I had abilities to talk to my guides. And then they slowly breadcrumbed me to my purpose, which was to be here with all of you lovely people. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that so much. Oh my gosh, is that Elf? I can't tell. I used to have a teacher in high school that just loved Elf. But anyway, so, sorry, Squirrel. My husband and I used to have this thing, you know, that movie Squirrel, or Up. Anyway, Sorry. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. James Daniel, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. And so, like I said, so my guides led me to my purpose, which is that I had to go through everything I went through in my life, all my loss, all the trauma that I went through, so I could help other people through it. And so that's why I'm here. They guided me that I needed to be on social media, so here I am. And so I only have 2 rules on my page. The first one is that I ask that you always be kind. And the second one is we don't talk politics. It's not against one side or the other. That's just not what my page is about. We talk about healing and loss and trauma, and just we're just here for people if you need a place to go, if you're lonely, those kind of things. So I always like to say I am where I am on my journey of life, and you are where you are on your journey of life, and none of us are going to agree on everything. And so we agree to disagree here. And if you can't do that, to just hop off and keep scrolling also. So that's pretty much about my page. Like I said, if you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. My name is Renee. I'm from South Dakota. Welcome. Tonight we're going to talk about, usually when I go live, my guides give me a topic. So I actually got this topic a couple days ago, but I don't go live usually Thursday through Saturday. So they said I was going to talk about it tonight. So what we're going to talk about tonight is, are you open to new experiences? Marty, is it Marty from Ohio? Welcome. Okay. So, and I apologize, my phone's probably going to ding a couple times. That's what it does. So, are you open to new experiences? And the first thing that my guide gave me was letting go. Letting go of old patterns, old beliefs, and anything that no longer serves you anymore. I also forgot to say that we're not shy here, so pipe in anytime, and you're never interrupting me, ever. My page is your page as long as you're respectful and kind. Hi, I'm Brandy from Ohio. Brandy, were you on here before? You look familiar. I apologize if I don't remember. Okay, so what does that mean, or what does that look like? Letting go, changing old beliefs. Anybody got anything they want to talk about or add to this so far? Anybody? If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee and I'm from South Dakota. Welcome. Tonight we're talking about, are you open to new experiences? Soul Whispers, you're back. Thank you for the badges. I appreciate that so much. And all the hearts. So this is where I start to lose everybody. Aw, thank you for the heart. Aw, I appreciate that. So if you're just hopping on, like I said, we're talking about, are you open to new experiences? I know a lot of people don't like change. I personally, I like change. I never used to, but I do like change. Depending on what it is, I do like change. So yeah, so what is letting go of old patterns, old beliefs? What does that mean to you? I believe we must be open to making changes or we don't grow. Nope, you're good, Lisa. Okay, and that's good. That's fine. And I agree. I think if we're evolving as people, which I think we always should be, we should always be open to new things, new beliefs, maybe changing old patterns that no longer serve us anymore. To embrace change is to embrace hope. I love that. I should write that down. I love that. And I can't screenshot it because I've got my button covered with my tripod. That's okay. So yeah, I truly believe that, if like I said, if we're going to evolve as people, and we go through, at least I have anyway, I can only speak for myself, different chapters of life, right? You know, when my kids were little, you know, was basically one chapter, and then as they grew a little older, it was a different chapter, and then, you know, as they left the house, it was another chapter, right? And so in all of these different chapters, you know, our beliefs change sometimes, our experiences change, which change our beliefs. Sometimes we realize that we have patterns that maybe don't serve us anymore. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee and I'm from South Dakota. Welcome. For me personally, since my husband has passed, if you missed it, my husband has passed. I discovered that I have a lot of patterns that no longer serve me. They didn't serve me then, but I didn't understand that because I'm growing and evolving as a person since he's passed. And so now I realize, obviously, that I had these patterns that I didn't like about myself, and so they no longer serve me. So what do you do about it, right? Do you change it, or do you just stay the same old? Pipe in anytime. I hope I'm getting comments. Sometimes they filter comments and I can't see them. My page is very much an interactive page. Hold on one second, guys, though. I need to grab I didn't realize my phone was getting low. I need to plug my charger in. So hope. Daniel says hope. Hi, Daniel. Welcome back. And I think that's the thing is, you know, we should always have hope, right? So what does it look like to change old beliefs or to change patterns, right? Maybe doing some inner work, some shadow work. Are you guys all familiar with what shadow work is? Shadow work, deep diving into, okay, maybe why do I have these patterns that no longer serve me? But you have to figure out why you have those patterns in order to change them, right? For me and my own personal experience, some of my patterns were behaviors that I had with my husband at the very end. And I didn't like those behaviors and those patterns. And so I'm like, okay, so why did I have those? Deep dive into why I had them. Okay, so now I know why I had them. So now how can I change that, right? How can I have better patterns and better behavior and better beliefs and not act on those old patterns anymore? We are ever changing, ever evolving beings of energy. Even if we resist, change is inevitable. It really is. But, you know, here's the thing with that, right? Is I 100% agree with you. It's just a lot of people fight that, right? Or they're stuck in their ego, and their ego tells them that, well, I'm just fine. I don't have anything I need to change. I'm okay, right? And maybe they don't, right? But I just think a lot of people get hung up in the ego of them telling them, you know, they're fine. They don't need to change. You know, you have, I guess you could say, you have the people on the spectrum of what you would call the narcissist, right? Who never do anything wrong to anybody, you know, are never responsible for anything. And so those type of people in my mind, right, whether, yeah, sometimes change comes to them, but maybe not, they don't face that head on and accept that change, right? Because they don't like to take responsibility, I don't feel, for anything that they have done that needs to be changed. Does that make sense? Hopefully I wasn't talking in circles there. Like I said, my page is your page, so you're welcome to pipe in anytime. Unfortunately, I experienced a moment in time that changed everything immediately and destroyed life. I understand completely. Thank you for the badge. I appreciate that, and all the likes also. If you're, I swear I've seen you before, but like I said, if you're new here, you know, when my husband's making that one decision to check out, right? changed my entire life of 32 years. Everything that I had known from the time I was 16 years old to the time I was 48 years old was completely gone. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes by this time of night, my brain isn't always functioning as correctly, but today's my day off, so I'm not as frazzled as I get during the week sometimes. But so I totally can relate to that, because by him making that one decision imploded my whole world, right? The only thing that resembled my world was my apartment and my kids and my grandkids and my pets. Everything else changed, right down to, you know, when I went to the grocery store, what to buy. Everything changed. They took all my earthly possessions away from me. You know, everything changed. And so in that aspect of, I can't remember who said it, but was talking about how change is inevitable. For me, it was inevitable, and I had absolutely no say in it, right? And sometimes that does happen for us. I have since learned that it did not happen to me. It happened for me. My guide said I needed a perspective change, and everything did switch in my mind once I changed that perspective, right? And sometimes that's all we need, right? Is to twerk that perspective of, it didn't happen to me, it happened for me. I needed a course correction. Renee wasn't on the path to her purpose. Sorry, I like to refer to myself third party sometimes. Sorry, anyway. But yeah, so it is definitely inevitable. You can agree with that. So, but I totally relate to where you're coming from. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Just keep piping in as you have a comment. Hopefully they'll all come through. They always let the trolls come through, but not all my good comments. So, so changing old beliefs can bring in new things once you let go of the old, right? Sometimes it's kind of like, have you ever went through your closet? This is how I look at it, right? I'm the type of person, generally, I go through my closet like every 6 months, and I'm like, if I haven't worn it in 6 months, it's gone, right? And so that's kind of how I look at old beliefs and things that are old that need to be changed. If it's not working in my life, then maybe it's time that I reevaluate that belief and go, okay, that's no longer working, right? I mean, I'm the girl that has the philosophy, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But if it's broke, it's time to fix it, right? And, you know, like I said, a lot of it comes down to, do you want to change? Do you want to change that belief, you know, when you know it's no longer serving you? Hopefully this is making sense, guys. So one of the beliefs could possibly be thoughts on money, right? I know personally, growing up, you know, I had the mentality of a couple things. One, money was scarce because I grew up very poor. And so when you grow up with that mentality that, oh, thank you for the rose. I appreciate that so very much. Thanks for the likes too. So when you grow up with that in your mind, whether it be consciously or subconsciously, sometimes that's a belief that needs to be changed. And that's actually putting a roadblock to you of money coming to you, because you have the mentality or the belief that money is scarce, right? And so sometimes you have to take that belief out and replace it with, money flows to me easily, right? That's one of my affirmations. I don't know if you guys are affirmation people, but I have posters all over my apartment that says money flows to me easily, because I had to change that internal belief that money was scarce. Okay, does that make sense? So that's just one example. Changing your thoughts that you can't do something. that was a huge thing growing up for me. If you've been on my lives before, you know my grandmother was a huge, huge influence in my life when I was a child. And one of her big things was you didn't say can't around my grandmother. If you said, I can't do that, my grandmother would say, and I know that this is for somebody who's into grammar, that this isn't going to make a lot of sense, but my grandmother would say, can't never do nothing, right? And so she'd be like, don't say that, you know, and she would tell you, change that thought, right? So there again, are those, what other thoughts or beliefs do you have that are no longer serving you, right? I know for me, I grew up with very low self-esteem and didn't have very good self-esteem for years and years and years. More so now because I've worked on myself and I've learned to love myself. Oh, thank you. I hope you have a good night. Oh, thank you for the rose. I appreciate that. Oh, thank you. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. So hopefully I don't lose my train of thought here. So there again, there's a belief, right? Maybe somebody told you you weren't worth anything or you would never amount to anything is a good one, right? How many people heard that? Anybody hear that growing up? You'll never amount to anything. You'll never be anything, right? So you have this belief or this thought that you can't do because somebody at some point told you that, right? And so you have to change that belief that you are capable, that you are worthy, that you are whatever that belief is, right? You need to replace that, right? And so for getting back to the main topic of bringing in new experiences, these are all things that sometimes, like I said, if they're not serving us, they need to go away. For me, you know, I'm hoping that I have a new beginning coming at some point. If you're new here, since my husband passed, there for a couple months after he passed, I was like, I have one foot in the past, which no longer existed, and I have one foot in the future that I have no clue what that will be, right? And so for the last year and a little over a year and a half, I've been saying, you know, I'm in the hallway. My guides have me in the hallway. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. I'm in the hallway and I'm waiting for that door, that next door to my new beginning, my future to open, right? And so for months and months and months, I would say, and this is where I had to change my belief. And also it was just flipping that perspective just a little bit I kept saying, I'm stuck, right? I'm stuck. I no longer fit here. I don't know where I fit over here. I'm just stuck in the hallway, right? And finally, my guides told me one day, they said, Renee, you're not stuck. And I said, I'm not. And they said, no, you're not stuck. You're being prepared. So just flipping that perspective of I'm not stuck in the hallway. I'm in the hallway being prepared for that next door to open, right? So changing that perspective, changing that belief. So when that new door opens, oh, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Hopefully I didn't miss any other comments. Sometimes I get to chattering here. And so, like I said, just changing that belief that, so now when I know when that new door opens for my new future, my new beginning, that I will be prepared for those new experiences, right? Because like my guide said, if you're not familiar, I am also a medium, and I also have visions of my future. I've had them for a long, long time. And so I kind of know what my future holds. Of course, they're not giving me the whole puzzle, just little bits and pieces, but what little pieces that I have of my future, I now understand that, yes, I am being prepared for that new door, for that new experience to open, right? Because had they shut the door on my past and just opened that new door to my future of the visions that I see at the time, you know, I would have been in trouble. I can honestly say that. I wasn't ready for that yet, right? And so, you know, they had to keep me in the hallway, as I like to say, to prepare me for that new door, because I wouldn't have known how to handle those new experiences had I not worked through my old belief systems that were no longer serving me, and being prepared to be able to handle that new door. Does that make sense to everybody? Scott, thank you for the badge. Thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. If you're just hopping on tonight, we're talking about, are you open to new experiences? And we've been talking about letting go of old beliefs, old patterns that no longer serve you. And so let's see. So the next thing that my guide was talking about is, okay, so changing your thoughts that you can't do something. That's what we were just talking about. You know, changing that perspective that you can do it, right? You can do anything that you set your mind to, right? And like I said, I'm a firm believer, guys, in affirmations. You know, if you have to put it on your mirror every morning when you brush your teeth in the morning, you know, and I am capable. I am worthy. Money flows to me easily. I can do anything that I set my mind to, whatever it may be, right? But I'm a huge believer in manifestation and affirmation. So if you need help with that, message me. I can help you with that. But so the next thing is being open to the new beliefs, right? So not only learning to release the old beliefs, but you also have to be open to the new beliefs. Does that make sense? If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. That you can do what you want. And then my guide said, trust and believe and have faith. Kathy, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that so much. And so one of the things I wrote down when my guide said, oh, thank you for the heart. Oh, I appreciate you guys so much. So one of the things when my guide said, trust and believe and have faith, it made me think of, so have faith. Whenever people talk about having faith, right? Hi, I'm from Southeast Arkansas. Well, welcome. Glad to have you here. I'm Renee. I'm from South Dakota. If you're just hopping on, we're talking about, are you open to new experiences? And at the moment, we're talking about being open to new beliefs, and that you can do whatever you want, and trust and believe and have faith that you can do that. And I was just going to say, so several, probably about 20 years ago, if not a little longer, that really dates me, but I had somebody talk to me about, okay, do you really have faith, right? You say you have faith, right? And they're like, well, when you turn it over to the divine, I say divine or source, guys, you are welcome to say God, whatever it is you believe. I believe that so much. And in affirmations, oh, good. They really do help. Thank you for all the badges too, Kathy. I appreciate that. If you guys can keep tapping that screen, it really does help me out a lot. But here's the thing is, we can say we have faith all day long, you know, but the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, my grandmother would say, right? And so I always say, you know, when we turn our problems, or I can't do this, or whatever, or, you know, I need help, we turn it over to our guides, universe, God, source, whatever, divine, whatever it is that you believe in. If you're new here, I just don't say God, because I've been down a million rabbit holes and I've discovered there were actually many gods. So which one are you referring to? So I do believe in a creator. I just call it divine, creator, source, whatever. But I do believe that we were created. Thank you for the likes. I appreciate that. But here's the thing. So when you say you have faith and you're turning your problem over to the divine or to your guides or whoever it is that you believe, are you taking that back, right? Are you taking that back, or are you completely handing, and this is where I struggle, and I've struggled with this for years. And I, you know, especially since my husband passed, I'll be 100% honest with you guys. This has been the worst time of my life, of my entire life. The hardest, I should say. Okay. I'm glad that you're back. Thanks for coming back. Thank you for all the likes, guys. I appreciate that. This period of my life has been the toughest period of my life ever. And I've went through a lot of things. If you're new here, I also had a stillbirth, full-term stillbirth in 1994. That was a really hard time for me. I always say that my faith grew the most at that point. And I've always been a very, very faithful person. You know, whenever my kids would come to me with a problem and I would say, you know, are you turning it over to, at that time it was God, but are you turning over to the divine? Are you turning it over to source, creator, whatever it is you believe? You know, are you asking for help, right? And, you know, and I have to say, guys, you know, my faith has been tested more than ever in my entire life. I'm 50 years old and my faith has been tested more than it's ever been tested the last year and a half, right? And so I do struggle with that. But let me tell you also, at my lowest points in this year and a half, it's always worked out. It's always worked out. Source, God, whatever it is you believe, has always, like I say, you know, I might not have gotten what I wanted, but I've always gotten what I needed, right? And if you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee and I'm from South Dakota. If you're not familiar, I am a medium and I do talk to my guides. And my guides remind me often that, you know, they're also there to help me. You know, our spirit guides, our angels, you know, they're all there to help you. One thing that people don't realize is because God, the creator, divine, whatever it is that you believe, give us free will. And so you have to ask them for help. You know, there's only so much that they can do to help you unless you ask, right? You have to be like, hey, can you help me get through today, right? Like I'm struggling today, right? And I struggle with that too, because one, I struggle with asking for help. I'm a very independent person, especially since my husband died. I'm probably hyper independent because, you know, I had to prove to myself that I could take care of myself because I had never really taken care of myself. I've always worked and things like that. You agree, Kathy? But I never had to like 100% take care of myself because I was with my husband since I was 16 years old, right? And I haven't been able to make the kind of money that my husband could make. And so, you know, the last year and a half has been a struggle. And so my faith has been tested a lot. I'm not going to lie. You know, when I started on this journey, I told my guides, I said, okay, I'll make you a deal, right? You know, I'll go on social media like you want me to do, and I'll do all my accounts public, even though it scared the living heebie-jeebies out of me, for not reasons that people would think. And that was one of the reasons why I've been in the hallway being prepared. I can go into that another time, but, you know, I do struggle just like everybody else does, right? But you have to have faith, right? If you don't have faith, I mean, what do you got, right? Like what's left? So anyway, I'm sorry, I kind of got off on a tangent there. I apologize, guys. So what does having faith mean? Trusting in the divine and this is the part that we miss sometimes, divine timing, right? So sometimes we have faith that everything's going to work out. And we have that belief and it's strong and we do trust, but do we trust in the divine timing, right? I know a lot of times, you know, you hear people say, well, I pray and nothing ever happens. Well, I have two things about that. I'm going to kind of go off on another little quick tangent here because this has always been my thing is people are like, well, I pray, but I don't get any answers. And this coming from a person who can hear the other side. I hear my guides. I speak to the other side. Are you listening? Right? You know, a lot of times, you know, people say, well, I pray. And then what do? You go out into the crazy busy world, or you flip on your TV, or you have your radio going constantly, or, you know, you're what I'm guilty of, right? We're scrolling and, you know, are you listening? Right? That is huge. Are you listening, right? You can't hear if your mind is going 100 miles an hour with everything that's going on around you in the world. That's why if you ever wake up, usually between 2 and 5, 3 and 5 in the morning, if God wakes you up or your guides or whoever wakes you up, that's why, because your mind's quiet and they're like, hey, I can get their attention now, right? So one, tangent over, are you listening? And what was the other one? Sorry guys, I kind of lose my train of thought here for a second because I got off on my tangent. Okay, trusting in the divine. So trusting, are you listening? And then are you trusting? It's on God's time, right? Creator's time, the divine's time. It's not on our time, right? And what most people don't understand is time is not linear. Time is made up. So, you know, what we think should happen in, you know, maybe in 2 weeks might not happen for 6 months, like me, right? My guides keep telling me that this is coming and this is coming for me and this is coming for me. Of course, they're not telling me when. And then of course, I'm having these visions of it coming and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to skip to that, right? And what you have to remember is it's not on my timing. It's their timing. Creators, God's, universe, whatever you believe is always right on time. So that's huge. Sometimes you have to be still. Exactly. People struggle with that. You know what's funny is, so for most of our married life, my husband always had to have noise on, always. TV, radio, it didn't matter. Day, night, sleeping, always had to have something going, right? Blaring. You're so welcome. Walnut, do you have a name and where you're from? Sorry, my daughter was calling. I'll have to call her back. And so, always on God's time, right? And sometimes that's a tough pill to swallow, right? New York, welcome. Glad to have you here. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee. I'm from South Dakota. Welcome. And then here's another one that I struggle with. And this is why, guys, this is why I get all this stuff to share with you, because it's not just going to you, it's going to me. They use my life and my problems. I'm the guinea pig, but they're also talking to me probably 95% of the time, if not more than that, 97% of the time. This topic is to be put out to you because it's something they want me to hear too. So just know that you're not alone, right? So I'm not preaching at you. This is for all. This is for me just as much. So the next thing is be present and be grateful. And this is, I've struggled with being present for so long. Being present and being patient are not things that I'm good at, right? And so another reason why Renee's still in the hallway, because Renee's struggling to be present and patient. So what does being present look like, right? What does that mean? That means no matter what you're going through right here, right now, in this second, being present, right? And if you've seen any of my videos, my guide gives me a lot of the times, thank you for all the likes too, I appreciate that. You know, one of the big things is with being present is, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. It'll come back. I'll just keep going because I don't know where I was going with that. But so being present, I struggle with that because obviously my mind still tells me a little bit I'm still in the past of that 32 years that no longer exists, right? And then, like I said, I get these visions of my future. So I know what my future holds a little bit and what little bit of breadcrumbs that my guides are giving me. So I know what my future holds. So I'm like, I'm always thinking and dreaming and manifesting about my future, but I struggle to be here, right now, right? And so I was just learning that more so before my husband passed. We traveled a little bit. And so my husband was the photograph guy. He always took the photos. and we would get in the car from somewhere and we'd be driving away, and he'd say, "Did you take any pictures?" And I would say, "No, I didn't," because I was just focusing on being present and in that moment, right? Instead of focusing on, oh, I need a picture for the future. Just being there and taking it all in and being present, right? That is so important. And even if we're going, and this is what my guide keeps reminding me of too, is even when we're going through the struggles right here, right now, maybe we're going through a struggle, whether it be loss or financial or whatever it may be, right? We still need to be present because it's still part of our journey, right? It's still part of our journey. Our past is part of our journey, our present's part of our journey, and our future's part of our journey. But no matter what we're going through right here, right now, it's still part of our journey. And so if we are not present, we miss that part of our journey. Does that make sense? And being grateful. That's one of the things I've really, and I'm being completely, like I said, I think that's where I was going earlier, is I told my guides I was going to be 100% authentic. If I was going to take this journey that they're telling me is my life purpose, that I would be 100% authentic, right? And so I'm always going to be straight with you. I'm a straight shooter anyway. I don't sugarcoat anything. I used to always tell my kids, you want sugar, go eat a donut. You're not going to get it from me. That's just who I am, right? And so I've struggled just like everybody else does. And this year, when I had my entire world stripped from me, everything, right down to material things, and the material things didn't matter so much. It wasn't about the material things. It was about the life that I lived with those material things, but was being grateful. And so every now and again, my guide will give us on our live, she'll be like, okay, tonight's assignment, she does like to give assignments, is to write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for. And I was doing that for a while. I write everything in my notebook here where I get messages from my guides, and I journal still and all kinds of things. And I notice on the weeks where I don't write those 3 things, and sometimes I even write more, but the weeks that I don't write those things, I struggle more, right? Because the more we put out into the universe that we're grateful, the more that the universe returns it back to us, right? I truly believe that 100%, right? You know, whatever we put out, God, the divine, whatever it is you believe, sends that back to us, right? So always be grateful. And then my guide said, and have a positive attitude. And that makes a huge difference. I tell everybody, a lot of the times you'll hear me say at the end of my videos, thank you for the badge. I appreciate that so much. At the very end, I always say, make tomorrow great or make today great, right? It's a choice. It really is a choice. It's a choice to be positive. When my husband passed away, I could have sat in this bed and I could have sat here and I could have just dwelled on everything, dwelled on, you know, like literally, guys, like my life fell apart. 32 years, poof, gone. My car was gone. My camper was gone. My husband was gone. My life was gone. You know, all last summer, my dryer quit, my vacuum quit, I could go on and on, right? We all have problems. We all have things that happen in our lives, right? And I could have sat here and I could have had a pity party and I could have said, nope, I can't, I'm not going to do this, right? And instead, I got out of this bed every day and I tried. You know, did I succeed every day? Maybe I wasn't, maybe I didn't make huge strides every day, but I got out of this bed and I tried. And to me, that's not failing. If you can if you can just keep stepping forward, keep putting one foot in front of the other, you're trying, then you know what? That's not failure. That's progress. And a positive attitude goes so much further. This guy at work always laughs at me in the morning. I vacuum a store in the morning. I work 2 jobs. And when I go into the store in the morning, we all get out of our cars to go into the store to clean the store. And this guy always laughs at me every morning when we come in. He'll look at me and see if Renee's smiling, because it's like I set the tone for the day, right? There's days where, you know, he's struggling and he's not smiling, and I'm like, hey, where's your smile today? You know, it takes more muscles to frown, right? It's harder to stay sad than it is to be happy today, right? And it's all going to be okay, right? And there's days where I am struggling, you know, and now I've got him coming to me and he'll say, where's your smile today, Renee? You know, and so your day just goes so much better if you know, positive. And if you're not familiar with, I always used to say in some of my videos, you know, we all have speed bumps through the day, right? You spill your coffee on the way to work and you got to go home and change your clothes, or just something that puts you in a mood, right? That's what I call speed bumps, right? And so I always tell everybody, we all have speed bumps, right? You go over them and you forget they're there and you go on about your day and you be positive. And so the more positive you are, the more positive you can put out in the world, you know, it just makes it a better place, right? Anyway, all right. So maintaining a positive attitude towards changes in your life that will help you navigate them with success. It's so much easier to navigate life when you're positive than it is when you're negative. That's just my experience. I don't know about you all. If you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from. If you're not familiar, my name is Renee and I'm from South Dakota. Welcome. So that's just my 2 cents on being positive. And lastly, don't have fear, right? I tell everybody, fear is not of the light. Fear only exists if you let it, right? A lot of people thought when I lost my husband that I was afraid. I was never afraid. That wasn't a word that I would have used. You know, was I'm trying to think of a for a better word. I wasn't afraid. I knew that I could do whatever I had to do to do what I had to do. Does that make sense? I probably just didn't make any sense there, but you know, I knew that I could work hard. There's work out there, and I knew that, you know, I was capable of doing whatever it took to support myself and to put my life back on track, right? So fear really wasn't part of that. It was more other things than fear, I would say. So don't ever let fear control you, right? Fear is not of the light, right? If you have fear, then you don't have faith, because, and like I've said this a lot, you know, you can't have both. You either have fear or you have faith. Which one is it, right? Because they can't coexist at the same time. You have fear or you have faith. So just my 2 cents. So this is the part of the night where if I have to throw in my lovely little plugs. Thank you for the rose one. I appreciate that so much. Otherwise, my guides get upset with me. So if you're not familiar, I do have a YouTube channel also. All the videos you see here are uploaded over there. The only difference is on my YouTube channel, if you miss a live and you would like to catch that, I do upload all my lives over there, usually the next day before they get uploaded. So you can catch all of those over there. If you check out my bio here and my bio over there, you'll find my emails. Like I said, if you missed it, I am also a medium and I do channel the other side. And if you would like to book a channeling session with the other side, you can do that through my email. I go live usually Sunday through Wednesday here between 7 and 8 o'clock Mountain Time. Usually I try to stick closer to 7. Tonight it was 7:17. 17 is one of my numbers. If you're not familiar, I'm huge into numbers. Angel numbers, they're sending us messages all the time through numbers. So Sunday through Wednesday here between 7 and 8 o'clock Mountain Time. And I've been saying this for weeks. I haven't done it yet, but I'm really hoping to start going live over on my YouTube channel. You're into numbers too? Oh, that's awesome. I'm a huge numbers girl. You need to go back and watch a couple of my lives from last week, how numbers played a huge part in my lives and what I was supposed to talk about. There was 2 different nights where numbers played a huge role in that. So I didn't even mention that. That's what I forgot. So my channel on YouTube is Scorpio Medium. If you go over to YouTube, I would love it if you subscribed if you're not already a subscriber. Scorpio Medium is the channel. And yeah, numbers played a huge, I think it was Tuesday and Wednesday night played a huge part. And I have a couple small reels on that too. Thank you, Katie Ann, for the heart. I appreciate that so much. What my lives were about, and yeah, it was quite interesting how they use numbers to send messages, and are you paying attention? So yeah, so I think I covered everything, but yeah, I'm hoping on Thursday nights, because I have a lot of subscribers over there on my YouTube that are not on TikTok, so I'm hoping to start doing lives on my YouTube on Thursday nights, but haven't quite made that happen yet, but I'm working on it. And that's pretty much everything I have. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to add or talk about? And anybody had a loss or anything they just need some help with? Or any questions? Anything? Going once? This whole time I've been on here, I just have to tell you guys, this is hilarious. I feel like I have a mole right here because I have some dirt on my phone. It's hilarious. Anyway, not really relevant. That's just my quirky self pointing that out. So anyway, if nobody else has anything else they want to add or ask or talk about tonight, anybody going once? Going twice? Anybody? I'm afraid to move it because if I touch my screen, I get into these weird screens and I don't know how to get out because I'm very technologically challenged. When I do my channeling sessions, they're only $40. I feel that that's fair. My guides, last fall, my guides are like, they kept telling me, Renee, you have a service. And I was like, I do. And they're like, yeah, you do. And I'm like, yeah, but I just don't feel, one, I wasn't sure I was ready for that. And then I was like, I don't feel comfortable charging people. And then they're like, well, you know, you're just like a mechanic. You have a service, right? And so I feel that $40 is fair. Every now and again, I do run a thing where it's only $25. I haven't done that since just before Easter, but what's my life number? I'm not sure. 44 is a huge number in my life. 44 lately, 44, but I'm not sure what the life number, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Yes, it is fair. I think so. I just want to help people, right? And so like I said, my guides are like, you have this service and you need to do this, but I want it to be fair at the same time. And I just want to help people. That's it, right? No, I'm not a show pony. I just want to help people. So anyway, well, thank you all for joining my live. Oh, awesome. Yeah, just email me. Like I said, that's a good way how to set it up. And it's in my bio here and then over there. And it's basically just scorpiomedium74@gmail or scorpiomedium74@yahoo. But they're in my bio. You'll be able to find that. So, okay, guys. Well, that's pretty much it. I'm almost pushing my hour mark. I try to stay within an hour. Thank you so very much for all of the love. I appreciate you guys so very much. And all of you that stuck around, I appreciate you. I hope you all have a great night. And like I said, I hope you all have a great day tomorrow. Make it great because it is a choice. And I'm going to say until we meet again.